Hello and welcome to the Hot Corner, the all-baseball themed show here on LTV. The way this show works is that there are 3 different timed segments where our analysts will be discussing and debating different topics and questions. I'm your host, Brandon Magown, and I'm joined here today by Alec, Zucker, and Harrison Duhr. How you doing, guys?
Thanks for having us, Brandon.
No problem.
Yeah, good
Looking
mood
forward to
today.
the show.
Great mood, actually.
All right, the first segment, each analyst will have 45 seconds to discuss the question given, after which the floor will be open for 1.5 minutes for discussion and rebuttal. The first question will be, well, Tanaka live up to the hype of his contract? And was you, Darvish, right in saying that he was overpaid? Zook?
Well, we all know Tanaka is now one of the highest paid pitchers in baseball of all time. He just got a 7-year, $155 million contract, and I believe he will live up to it. Now, the guy's 25 years old. The Yankees are getting him for 7 of his prime pitching years, between the years of 25 and 32. Last year, he was 24-0 with a 1.27 ERA. I mean, the numbers are crazy. And he also led his team to the Japanese Series title. He also had better numbers than Yu Darvish going into his major league career. At worst, I see him with a 3.5 ERA, which would make him a little bit overpaid, but I really think that's the worst with him. I mean, he's a splitter kind of guy. He's going to get a lot of ground balls at Yankee Stadium, so the small porch in right field and the way the ball flies out of there won't be that bad. I think there'll be a transition period with some early struggles, but I think he will end up living up to that contract.
All right. Harrison?
I'm going to disagree with a couple things, actually, Zook. You said he had better stats in Japan. That's actually false with the stats I'm looking at. They both were in the Japanese league for 7 years. Darvish was actually more of a strikeout pitcher, 200 strikeouts 4 seasons compared to Tanaka only once. And then even more durable Darvish. He had 200 innings 4 times, while Tanaka only had 200 innings 2 times. So those 2 things alone, I think, are huge statistics for pitchers. And if the contracts were, similar in money, the years are very similar. Tanaka's 7 years, Darvish is 6. But the money is so different because you have the Yankees involved. It's unbelievable. You have Tanaka's got 155 million, and Darvish has 60 million. I mean, that difference is insane, and I don't think. Obviously, it's the Yankees. Tanaka is not worth that.
Well, I think what a lot of people were referring to, what I would say, was that he had better numbers the year before going into the major league. Because I don't believe Darvish had a better record than 24-0 with a 1.27 ERA. I mean, these numbers are really great, and I really think that he's the kind of guy that can come in. If he can make the transition, he's going to have some early struggles. But the thing with Japanese pitchers is they end up being either really good or really bad. You've got people like Keiagawa, who a lot of Yankee fans are unhappy to remember. But then
I think he's got the AAA leaders.
All
those great stats in AAA.
For $50 million or whatever.
Good for him, man.
But listen, I really think he's going to struggle early, but I really think he'll get into a groove, and they're going to have so much offensive support for him this year with that lineup with Jacoby Ellsbury, Brian McCann, Soriano, Beltran. There's just so many good hitters on that lineup. I think he's going to be just fine, and I think he will end up living up to that contract.
Well, if he didn't go to the Yankees, do you think the money would have been the same? Would have been
No,
no way.
Zook brought up a point that I think needs to be said. You never know what you're going to get from a Japanese pitcher.
That's true.
So why have $155 million on the table for a guy that could be Keiagawa?
It's a risk.
Yu Darvish, or in between Daisuke Matsuzaka.
Just remember this. It's a risk, but he had outstanding numbers last year. He's 25.
So did Keiagawa.
I know, but you got to roll the dice. And I think in the Yankees'
they're
case,
rolling a couple die there.
Oh, absolutely. And I think in the Yankees' case, with CC struggling last year, with Hiroki Kuroda, I believe turning 39, they needed to bring in another ace starter, or the potential to be a top starter in the league, to make that team a contender, and I think he'll live up to that, and the Yankees will be a contender this year.
I don't know. Gawa might have some competition for those AAA stats. I don't know.
We will see.
It'll be an interesting spring. Let's put it at that. Let's move on to question number 2. What should the Tigers do in regards to Scherzer? Trade him or sign him long term? Harrison, we'll start with you.
All right. Now, obviously, my dad's a Tigers fan. I've established that on the show, and I love Max Scherzer. He's one of my favorite Tigers, but he needs to be traded. Very similar scenario a couple of years ago. R.A. Dickey, I love the guy. He was one of my favorite pitchers, had an unbelievable story, and he wrote his book, and then he had his dream season the year after writing his book. But the Mets, as we can see, paid off because Dickey had a very subpar season with Toronto, and they have some really good prospects coming up, Syndergaard, d'Arnaud, from that trade. So I think I like Max Scherzer, but trading him, it's all about the bigger picture. You can really focus on some different aspects that you need. And obviously, Miguel Cabrera, you need to re-sign him. I would love to sign Scherzer, but Cabrera is the guy you need to focus on. You already have Verlander on a long-term deal. So to have too many long-term deals, that would be not good for a team.
Yeah.
Harris, I got to ask you, have you lost your mind? Seriously, because
I've not lost
honestly,
my mind.
this is a no-brainer.
I'm sorry.
It's a complete no-brainer.
A no-brainer.
I mean,
Wow, look at this.
You know, the guy was, in the last 2 seasons, he's 37-10. He had a 3.74 ERA in 2012 and a 2.9 ERA last year. He also had 471 strikeouts in 402 innings. That's outstanding. And you want to trade this guy? This is not a guy you want to let walk away or trade for some prospects that may pan out or not.
So I think you lost your mind. Would you rather lose Cabrera than Scherzer?
You can keep both because you just traded Prince Fielder, who had a massive contract.
But you still have Kinsler's contract too,
Yeah,
and Victor Martinez if you bring him
does,
back. There's a
you're
lot of
gonna put
different
Victor
contracts.
Martinez over Scherzer?
Well, considering what the offense looks like this year, I think you might
doesn't
have
matter.
to.
Remember,
You have Anibal
Verlander.
Sanchez too, another
Yes,
big
but you
contract.
know what? Verlander just turned 31. He struggled last year. He's probably going to start to decline over the length of that contract. They need to lock Scherzer up, and he needs to be the ace for them going forward.
Yeah, but what happens if you sign Max Scherzer to another long-term contract, and then he starts to decline, and as we've seen, Verlander started to decline. You
Exactly.
have 2 guys under long-term contracts declining at the exact same time.
Well,
and you're stuck with them.
But I don't think Scherzer will decline. I mean, he's improved year to year over the last 3 to 4 seasons. He's 29 years old. He still has 3 to 4 quality seasons left. I don't think you have to give him an 8 to 9 year deal to keep him. I really
about
don't. I think
Scherzer,
you can
though,
give him a 5-year deal with a little bit more money.
The thing about Scherzer is he has very, very strange mechanics, and he's had a lot of innings, a lot of strikeouts racked up in the last 3 or 4 years. And it comes a time where a pitcher, once you get past those prime years, he's got to break down. We're already seeing with Verlander, as Brandon mentioned, and I'm worried
Verlander
that
had
Scherzer,
a lot more mileage on him than Scherzer.
yeah, they
By
really
far.
used him. He was
By far.
He was their.
the last couple of years, though,
workhorse.
Scherzer's gotten much more workload than he ever had, and even in the
But he's
beginning of his
gotten
career.
better. He's gotten better over those years.
It's true, but he's in his prime right now, so he's only going to get worse from here. Plus, Verlander, as we've seen, yeah, he got more workload, but it's very possible for a great pitcher, Verlander Scherzer, to break
let's
down.
tell you want to trade him. Who would you trade him for?
I'd trade him for some offense right now. I really would, because the Tigers' offense really let them down in the postseason. Prince Fielder, no RBIs and 60 at-bats.
Yeah.
Victor Martinez, great hitter, but, he's getting old. Johnny Peralta, gone. Austin Jackson, one of the most inconsistent leadoff hitters in the game. Nick Casatellos, you don't know what you're going to get from him. Ian Kinsler, yes, I'd like to see a change of scenery work out for him, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. Alex Avila, he's up and down
the whole
every
lineup
year.
up and down, man. I'm impressed.
It's my dad's team.
There you go.
So, yeah, the offense is a much bigger question mark right now than the pitching rotation.
Well, we'll see. I still think you got to keep Scherzer. The guy's just too good to let him go.
All right. Let's move on to our final question. If the rumors are true, was it a bad decision for Nelson Cruz to turn down the Mariners' offer of 5 years, $75 million, to sign a 1-year deal with Baltimore? Alec?
Honestly, when I heard this news, I was like, am I missing something here?
Yeah.
I mean,
that was a shock to me, too.
He turns down a 5-year, $75 million deal from the Mariners, and he signs a 1-year, $8 million deal. Now, I'm not that great at math, but he leaves $67 million on the table. That's a lot of money to leave on the table for a guy who's 33 years old, coming off a PED suspension, and really hasn't historically hit well away from Arlington, Texas. So to go to Baltimore, I mean, he may have more protection in that lineup than Seattle. It just doesn't make any sense to me how he can leave that much money on the table. But I really think either way, it is a great signing for Baltimore. I mean, the contract represents more of a prove-it kind of contract, which is probably the way he's looking at it. He'll play really well this year, he hopes, and even make more money next year. It's just too much to risk. $67 million he risks, and I just think it's crazy.
Well, I think Nelson Cruz has been talking to his former teammate Adrian Beltre. Seattle ruins hitters. Adrian Beltre, his last year at the
They're
Dodgers.
going to ruin Robinson Cano, too?
It's going to ruin. I said that in last week's show.
You're
It's going to
nuts.
ruin Robinson.
I wish I was on that show. That is crazy.
No, hear me out. Adrian Beltre, last season with the Dodgers, 2004, 48 home runs, second MVP to Barry Bonds. Goes to Seattle, hits 10 home runs the next year. 1, you go to Seattle, you don't get pitched to. 2, if you do get pitched to, you don't hit the ball out. It is a pure pitcher's ballpark. That is why King
A-Rod
Felix.
hit a lot of home runs out of there.
Oh, A-Rod's a cheater.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to get an A-Rod. But Felix Hernandez, part of the reason that makes him such a dominant pitcher is that great ballpark that he has, and he uses it to his advantage. Yes, Nelson Cruz, he turned down more money, but he's going to a more playoff contender team in Baltimore, in my opinion.
Really?
Yes. I
You
really
really think they're a playoff contender in that division?
I
You've
do.
got the new and improved Yankees. You still got Boston, the defending
the
World Series
with the
champions.
wild card system
And
we
the
have right
Rays.
now, with the wild card system we have right now, a lot more teams are contenders than
So
the
you
previous
think
years.
Baltimore will make the playoffs this year?
I'm not saying they will make the playoffs, but I think they'll be in contention come September.
along with the Yankees and all the other teams.
Four of the 5 teams, minus Toronto in the AL East, I think will be in contention.
I was going to say
September.
that's the toughest division right now to pick. Who's going to win that? But as of right now, I see Baltimore finishing 4th, just above Toronto. But so if Cruz goes to Baltimore and he's on this prove it 1-year deal and he goes out there and he has a good season, even if he has a mediocre season, are teams then going to be inclined to sign him to a long-term contract?
No, absolutely not.
I think AL teams will. I do think AL teams will.
Even if he has a mediocre season.
Even if he has a mediocre season, because yes, his defense is awful. I mean, it costed the Rangers a World Series in 2011. If he knew how to take a route to a fly ball, they would have been world champions, but he didn't. But if he has a decent season, he probably will be the DH since Chris Davis, I believe, is the main first baseman for Baltimore. So he has, hits maybe 20, 25 home runs.
That's a hitter's park, too. He probably will.
Yeah, 80, 85 RBIs with that protection with Chris Davis, Machado if he's healthy, Markakis, Adam Jones, JJ Hardy,
yep.
Matt Wieters if he gets together. He might have himself a very good season.
It's a good team. I just don't see them having enough pitching to beat contenders. But you're right.
Well, getting Jimenez definitely helps. And they're still in the Irvin Santana sweepstakes. So
he's probably going to be overpaid, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you were right with he's going to be DHing because I heard that in the reports that he's just going to be DH.
He should be.
That's
why I'm glad the Mets didn't sign him because his defense is atrocious.
Yeah, that's very true. All right, well, that wraps up this first segment. After the break, we'll shake things up a little bit with our rapid fire segment. Stay with us. And welcome back to the Hot Corner. Let's get right back to it. It's time for our rapid fire segment. I will ask each analyst a different question, and they will have 30 seconds to discuss it. Our first question is for you, Harrison. Will Jose Fernandez win a Cy Young in his second year?
I really do believe so. He had one of the best rookie seasons I've ever seen from a pitcher. Look at Matt Harvey from last season. He was in contention for the Cy Young until he got hurt in August. I think he would have gotten it, honestly, if he had a decent August and stayed healthy and had a decent September. So I do believe Jose Fernandez will overtake Clayton Kershaw for this year's Cy Young. He's just one of the most dynamic pitchers in the game, and he's going to be one of the most dynamic to come for years now.
All I can say is good luck, Jose, because there's so many good pitchers in the NL. I can't see him. I think he will win a Cy Young at some point, but not next year. No way.
We'll have to wait and see.
You got it.
All right, Alec, your first question is, will Greinke ever get over his road woes?
I think he will. I mean, last year he was 8-2 with a 2.11 ERA at home, and his pitching on the road, he was 7-2 with a 3.21. 2012, he was 8-2, 2.98 at home, and then 7-3, 3.91 on the road. So, we always like to talk about the regression to the mean. All you sabermetricians love that saying. I'm going to say that Greinke does regress to his mean and stops giving up an additional run on the road away from Dodger Stadium this year. He's just too good. He'll figure it out. I really think that these numbers are there's not as a significant difference enough to make a huge deal about it.
Well, good luck for him because his first series is in Australia, and he's already complained about that. The last couple of weeks, so that's not a good start for him.
That's a long way from home. That's a long.
Yeah, it's going to mess up his routine, so we'll have to wait and see.
All right, Harrison, will Lincecum ever regain his old form?
I really do believe so. The last couple of years, we actually have seen signs of the old Tim Lincecum. 2012 playoffs, when he was in the bullpen, he looked really good. I think you've lost your mind. You got to give me a chance here, Zucker. Come on, what are you doing? And even last year, he had that no-hitter. He threw 150 pitches, and he looked like the Tim Lincecum of old. Yes, he might not win a Cy Young. I'm not saying that, but I do think he could be a solid number 2 starter in that rotation behind Matt Cain this season and for years to come.
Well, Bumgarner got the start on opening day, so is he the ace?
Lincecum turns 29 this year. His fastball velocity is falling off a cliff, should continue to do so with age. We will never see the Cy Young award-winning Lincecum ever again.
Well, you don't need a good fastball necessarily. As long as you locate and you develop your other off-speed pitches, and he has a great changeup and slider, so if he uses that more into his advantage, I think he could be the old Tim Lincecum, but just a little different style.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Alec, will this finally be the year that everything clicks for the Angels?
No, I don't think so. I think that, and the one reason you could probably say is for a lot of teams why they shouldn't be World Series favorites is they just don't have enough pitching. When you have an aging Jared Weaver and an aging C.J. Wilson leading your staff, you're just not going to have enough to get it done. I mean, we saw Weaver. A lot of my friends always said that he was one of the more overrated pitchers, one of our luckiest pitchers in baseball before last year. It came back to roost. He wasn't as good. Wilson's not as good. I know Trout is outstanding, but when your offense is really anchored by an aging Pujols and aging Josh Hamilton, this team, they can't be getting better as far as I'm concerned with just their age. I don't think it's going to click.
To be fair, they got two really good young pitchers, and Hector Santiago from the White Sox and Tyler Skaggs from the Diamondbacks. So I think that's a much better upgrade over Jason Vargas. And Tommy Hansen
but I just don't see it being enough for them. It's a tough division as well. I mean, Seattle's going to be decent this year.
I think they'll be better this year, though.
Oh,
Even
absolutely.
if they don't get a playoff spot, they should be better.
They should be.
Well, anything is better than the last 2 seasons they've had.
Yeah, honestly.
All right, and finally, Harrison, your last question. Are the Athletics a better team now with Jim Johnson as their closer than with Grant Balfour?
No, and I think for 2 reasons. One, Grant Balfour has better stuff. Jim Johnson is more of a sinker ball pitcher. Balfour is more of a, fastball two-seam type of pitcher. And also just Balfour's character in general. He was a fiery competitor, really great person for that clubhouse. Jim Johnson, I haven't heard too much about him, but he just kind of seems like, just one of the guys. Nothing too special, nothing too crazy. And I think they're really going to miss that fieriness and competition in their clubhouse. So
you got to have a crazy personality to be a closer.
You do, yeah. And I don't think Jim Johnson has that. He just.
I disagree, man. They're saving about $3.4 million with Johnson, and in the last 2 years he's converted 101 out of 113 save opportunities.
He blew a lot of saves last year. I want to say he blew about 8 or 9.
He's blown 12 save opportunities in his last 113 opportunities.
Yeah, well,
that's almost 90%, which is outstanding.
Yeah, but he blew a couple playoff opportunities there 2 years ago.
Small sample size.
So
it does make you wonder why they didn't re-sign
the stage.
Yeah.
But all right, Alec, your last question. Will Heath Bell finally settle down and be the dominant pitcher he once was?
This was a tough one for me, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. His home run fly ball rate last year was double his career average. I believe it was 19%, where his average is only like 8.9. That won't continue. I think that'll help his numbers. And his strikeout rate has also been on the rise for the last couple of years, so I think that'll help as well. I'm going to say he bounces back. He may not be as dominant as he once was, but I definitely think there will be an improvement for Heath Bell this season.
It's the end of the show here, and I think you're getting tired or something. I think you've really lost your mind. But
I don't know, Harrison.
Heath Bell here. He had his, you can make the argument for the change of scenery. He had that last year in Arizona and still had a pretty subpar season.
It's not as bad as trading Scherzer, man.
Yeah. We're not getting back to that. We're moving forward here, Zuck. I just don't think Heath Bell has anything close to what he had in San Diego. That was a huge pitcher's ballpark. Even Arizona is not a bad pitcher's ballpark, and he couldn't prove himself there. Miami was a train wreck.
See how he does out in Tampa, to really get a gauge on this.
I don't know. I don't see it. It's Heath Bell. Maybe it's just the Mets fan in me because he was god awful on the Mets, but I just don't think he has dominant stuff to be a closer anymore. I think it is the Mets fan. I think you're biased, man. I just
sour grapes over here,
I don't think he's a closer.
All right, guys, we got to wrap this segment up. All right, well, that's the end of the rapid fire. We'll be right back after this quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time for our last segment, Speak Now. Both our analysts will have about a minute to discuss something from earlier in the show or bring up something to discuss quickly. Alec, you first.
Well, Brandon, I'm going to talk about a guy in Philadelphia who is really not in a good situation. He's on the hot seat. His name's Ruben Amaro. You know a lot about him.
Favorite right here.
Yeah, this is a guy, in my opinion, that is just living in the past. You've seen him sign a lot of guys over the years and re-sign a lot of the guys that won the World Series with the Phillies back in 2008. Here's the catch. It was in 2008. That was 6 years ago. He just extended Carlos Ruiz, 34-year-old catcher, for 3 more seasons. And his big acquisition this year was Marlon Byrd, another guy who I believe overachieved last year, and now he's overpaid. He signed Bobby Abreu, 40 years old, to come in and try to improve their offense. Yeah, 2005, even further back. It's crazy. And he also signed A.J. Burnett, another guy who I think overachieved last year. I don't think he'll be as good this year. $16 million for A.J. Burnett. I don't see it. The Phillies, they're just a team that is, right now, they're just too old. Their average age in their infield has to be right around 34, 35 years old. They're not going to contend this year. And I think he'll be fired personally by the end of the season.
And I would not mind that happening. But,
First time we're agreeing on the show, right there. For me, I'm going to talk about the Mets again. I read an article today actually saying that Stephen Drew might actually wait until June to sign a contract because that's when the amateur draft is. So in that case for the Mets, they don't lose a compensation pick if they sign him. And I think that's really interesting because if Stephen Drew is willing to do that, then that shows that maybe he might get a better contract. And for the Mets, that's almost like a trade deadline pickup. So they might need a spark come June or July to get their offense going. We don't know yet. So I like that idea a lot. And of course, on my way over here, I read that John Neese is going back to New York because he has some shoulder discomfort. So that makes me very nervous. So we're going to have to wait and see with that.
And the season has already begun for the Mets.
It's not even March yet, and it's already a long season. Unbelievable.
I'm surprised you took much time to talk about the Mets, man. How irrelevant they usually are.
All right, Zook. Like you and your Yankee stuff, I don't need that right now. All right, Tanaka, would you guys spend $500 million this year? How much is that going to pay off?
Hey, the last time they spent $450 million or whatever, 2009, they won the World Series.
Well, it's not 2009. So.
You watch, man. I think they're going to be in the World Series. I think they're going to be good this year.
Yeah, also, every time Kentucky won the NCAA tournament, the Yankees won, except a couple of years ago. So
we'll see.
Sometimes tradition needs to be broken. So.
Yeah. That is true, but not this year.
Well,
that's a bias right there.
This was a great show. All right, well, that does it for another show of The Hot Corner. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, if you're interested in joining LTV, like us on Facebook or email us at ltv@tcnj.edu. Have a good one.